Have you ever felt like you needed to apologize for needing a quiet weekend or for leaving a family event early, or feeling like you need to say yes to something when you're being put on the spot? It's sometimes weird to me how many things that are genuinely good for our health and happiness still are considered socially unacceptable or weird. Somewhere along the way, we've decided that having a restful weekend of doing nothing is lazy, or saying no is rude, or asking for help is weak, or prioritizing our own needs makes us selfish. And I don't think it should be this way. Over the last couple of years, I have learned a lot about self-care, slow living, simplifying life, and as I learned these things, I found myself wanting to stop hiding the little habits that genuinely make my life better. Things like protecting my downtime, advocating for myself, and prioritizing my well-being, because I think these things should be totally normal. Many of us feel like we need to justify them or maybe even keep them to ourselves, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that these aren't strange habits at all. These are self-care habits that I think should always be okay to do. So in this video, I want to share 10 self-care habits that I think we should normalize, and not because everyone needs to do these things, but more so because none of us should feel judged or guilty for doing them. And I really believe that if more of us felt comfortable making these kinds of choices, that we would probably all be a little bit happier, healthier, and kinder to ourselves and each other. And today's video is kindly sponsored by Skillshare, and I'll tell you more about them later. For now, grab yourself something nice to drink if you want, and join me. I have some nice matcha here with oat milk, my favorite summer drink. So grab yourself something nice too, and let's talk about it. The first habit that I think we should normalize is having plans to not have plans, and to actually stick to that. So scheduling in time in your calendar to leave empty. As someone who needs quite a bit of rest and downtime, my life changed when I started doing this. Always, whenever I feel a little bit tired or overwhelmed, it helps me so much to just look at my calendar and see that I've got an empty day or even an empty afternoon coming up sometime this week, where the plan is simply no plans. I think many of us treat empty time in our calendar as if it's free by default. So if someone asks us, are you free on Saturday? And we look at our calendar and there's nothing like actually written down, no appointments or anything, then we feel compelled to say, yes, I'm free. I used to really struggle with this when I was younger. If I didn't have plans, I felt like I almost had to say yes. And even if I didn't really want to go, I felt like I needed to come up with some sort of valid excuse. And I have to admit that sometimes I would just make up a reason as to why I didn't have time that day, even if it wasn't true, because I felt like I couldn't just come out and say, I would actually like a quiet day to myself. And now I really don't do that anymore. If someone asks me if I'm free on my day off and I know that I need that day to recharge, I simply tell them exactly that. Like, it's my day off, I'm keeping it free so I can rest. That's it, that's the reason. I really don't feel like I need to come up with an excuse or some kind of reason as to why I'm busy. I tell them exactly this. It feels really freeing to be able to just come out and say it like that. And in my experience, people usually understand when you say it like that without any hesitation or without over explaining yourself. People just usually go like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then we'll figure something else out. So being honest about this has never been any kind of problem. I think the biggest hurdle for me was just convincing myself that this is okay and that rest is a good enough reason, because it is. So I feel like we need to stop treating free time as available time, and also just be completely honest about this. And if someone has a problem with that, I actually think it says more about them than it says about you. The second self-care habit I think we should normalize is getting a second opinion at the doctor, or more generally, just advocating for yourself when something doesn't feel right. I still find this one so difficult, but I'm practicing. When I'm at the doctor's, there's still a part of me that just wants to be easy and that doesn't want to be a difficult patient or challenge their opinion or ask too many questions. And I sometimes still leave an appointment thinking like, I wish I had asked them about this, or I forgot to mention this symptom. Especially when I'm at the dentist, because I'm already like barely holding it together because I really hate going. So part of me is just kind of thinking like, okay, the faster I'm out of here, the better. And I know I'm not the only one, especially as women. We grow up feeling like we always need to be agreeable and not make a big fuss, and we don't want to not be difficult, but I really think that asking questions and standing up for yourself isn't being difficult. And even if it is, as long as you're still being respectful, I think it's okay to take our health seriously. One thing that really helps me is preparing before I go. So I make a list in my phone with everything that I want to talk about, all the questions I want answered, all the symptoms that I want to mention, and then I actually take up my phone when I'm there and I go through the list point by point, which is still a little bit awkward for me, but it really helps and it makes a big difference. I've also heard that women are more likely to have their symptoms dismissed or attributed to something like stress or anxiety, and I've definitely had that happen to me. So advocating for yourself is just really important, or getting a second opinion if you feel like something isn't right. At the end of the day, nobody lives in your body except you, and you can feel what's going on. So if you feel like there might be something else, ask another question. It doesn't make you difficult, you're just taking good care of yourself. The third self-care habit I think we should normalize is telling people you will think about it before giving them an answer. And this has changed so much for me. I used to find it very difficult to say no to things, especially when someone asks me face to face or when I feel like I'm being put on the spot. I almost just kind of like cannot think clearly and I feel like I have to say yes. And then later that day, of course, I would think like, I really wish I'd said no to that. I feel like we have the idea that we should just always immediately have an answer, and why? Because usually it's not urgent. Usually it can wait at least a few hours. So instead, I trained myself to never give an answer straight away and always just say something like, let me think about it and I'll get back to you later today, or can I let you know tomorrow? And I do this even when I'm pretty sure that I want to say yes, because I know that I have people-pleasing tendencies. So this gives me a little moment to have a check-in with myself and just ask myself, like, do I really want to do this? Do I really have time and energy for it? Does this fit with everything else I've got going on? And if the answer is no, then this gives me an opportunity to practice what I want to say. So I think asking for a little time and getting back to someone later should be completely normal. We don't have to say yes or no straight away. The only thing is you want to make sure that you actually do get back to that person and not leave them hanging. Number 4 of the self-care habits we should normalize is making time for useless hobbies. Hobbies that are not productive in any way at all, other than the fact that we just think that they're fun. I think there is so much pressure for even our hobbies to still be productive somehow. Either we need to monetize them, or we need to get really good at them, or we need to have some big lofty goal like reading 100 books a year. But recently I've really come to realize that just having fun is reason enough, whether it is knitting or baking or drawing or playing music or reading or playing a video game. If you think it's fun, then that is reason enough, and you are allowed to do it, and you are even allowed to prioritize it and make time for it, even if it doesn't lead to anything other than you enjoying yourself. Kids are really good at this. They can play just because it's fun to play, but as adults, I think that we've kind of forgotten that play isn't just for children, it's good for everyone, us too. And if you're wondering like, where are you going to find the time for it? I would suggest taking a very honest look at your phone usage, because many of us spend hours a day on our phone, even if we don't realize it. So even just taking like 20 minutes from that and directing that towards a fun hobby instead, that is also not productive in any way, but it's just a lot of fun for you, I think can really help. Not everything we do has to be useful in some way down the line, and time you enjoyed wasting is not wasted time. For me lately, it's been Stardew Valley. I love that game and I'm currently on my second playthrough after reaching completion in my first playthrough, and I'm still having so much fun with it. And speaking of fun things and hobbies, here's where I quickly want to thank the sponsor for today's video, which is Skillshare. Because Skillshare fits so well with this topic. It is an online learning platform where you can learn new skills, explore creative hobbies, or finally try something that you've been curious about, all at your own pace. And what I really like about it is that it takes away the pressure to also already be really good at something immediately. It's just about trying something new, learning something for fun, and enjoying the process. I've used Skillshare a lot over the years with my work on Simple Happy Zen, but also learning things like digital art, design, creative skills. I've taken classes on mindfulness and meditation, plant care, matcha, music, and I'm sure there's something you're curious about too, whether that is learning how to knit or sew, try watercolor painting, creative writing, photography, playing an instrument, whatever it is, there is a good chance that you will find a class about it on Skillshare. One class I came across recently that looks so much fun is called a 30-day cute animal challenge by Tomas Benko, where he teaches you to create these adorable animal watercolor designs. I think this class is perfect if you are a watercolor beginner, but I also think that this would be a really fun class to adapt. So for me, I'm thinking of doing this just with pen and paper in my notebook. I've really been enjoying that. Or doing it digitally on my iPad with like digital watercolor. I always enjoy scrolling through the classes and then coming across something like this, and I think it's cool because these are real people who are industry experts and they can teach you real skills, which in the age of AI is just really important. So give Skillshare a try, and you can do that for free because the first 500 people to click my link in the description box or scan this QR code right here can get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So you can try as many classes as you like. If it's not for you, then you can cancel within your trial and you won't be charged. But I'm pretty sure that you will love it as much as I do because there are so many fun classes on there. Big thanks to Skillshare for being a supporter of the channel, and let's get back to the video. Number 5 of the self-care habits we should normalize is practicing self-compassion and being our own personal cheerleader. I think for many of us, being really hard on ourselves and being self-critical feels normal. And when we are showing ourselves compassion, that feels like we're being too soft or going too easy on ourselves. So we criticize ourselves, we focus on what we did wrong or what we need to do better, and we try to motivate ourselves that way. But something really interesting that I have learned from research of Dr. Kristen Neff is that the opposite is often true. When you are being self-compassionate and kind and understanding to yourself, it leads to better motivation, more resilience, and the ability to learn from your mistakes. It's like having a little cheerleader on your shoulder, just kind of like saying nice things and cheering you on, versus having a little bully on your shoulder that is always being very critical and telling you like, you suck, you need to try harder. And I think many of us might even think it's a little embarrassing to be kind to yourself, or that giving yourself grace means that you are making excuses. But I actually think that self-compassion should be the default and not self-criticism. First, because we know from research that it is more helpful, more beneficial to motivate us in the long run. And second, because if we can be more compassionate towards ourselves, then we might also be able to create a more compassionate world. Choosing not to drink at social events. This one to me feels actually quite bizarre, but unfortunately is not normal everywhere, and people might feel like they are being pressured or even bullied into drinking alcohol at an event when they would actually rather not. Of course, it's totally okay if people do want to have a drink, that is everyone's personal choice. But it should also be okay for someone to just have water or a soda or something else. Recently, the Dutch Health Department changed their advice on alcohol consumption, and this was really like in the news here, where before they used to say that it was okay to have 1 drink a day as long as it's not every day. Now they're saying that alcohol is basically always bad for your health and it's best to drink as little as possible, and this is based on evidence of the effects of alcohol on the body. And when this came out, I was reading the news articles and I found it really interesting to read the comments that people left underneath it, where they said that they would like to choose something non-alcoholic at social events sometimes, but every time they do, they always get met with criticism when people are saying like, oh, don't be such a party pooper, like have a drink with us. And I'm genuinely confused by this. So for me personally, a while ago, I've kind of decided to stop drinking, and sometimes I still feel like, yeah, I'd really enjoy a beer right now. But then I think like, you know, I actually really like this lifestyle overall because I know that I always feel better if I don't drink. So I'm very happy with my decision. And for me personally, this is not me bragging about how cool I am or anything, but I genuinely don't care. If someone has an opinion about this, I genuinely don't care. And if someone is gonna be annoying about it, all it tells me is that I probably won't be friends with that person, and then I care about their opinion even less. So people can make these comments, I honestly don't care. I will never have a drink if it's not something that I want to do. And I think it is so uncool to pressure someone into having a drink, especially when people got there by car and they're going to drive back, but that's another story. I just feel like this should be everyone's personal choice. It should 100% be normal to have a non-alcoholic drink at a social event. That is my opinion. So if you recognize this and people are acting that way to you, know that it is your own personal choice. Everyone can decide for themselves, and you can too. Speaking of which, I also think that it should be considered normal to sometimes leave a social event early, because not everyone has the same amount of social stamina, and some of us might feel really drained halfway through an event. For some people, maybe introverted people, highly sensitive people, neurodivergent people, social things just take more energy. That is fine, that's how it works, and we don't all have the same battery. And our energy doesn't last for the same amount of time. For me, it really depends. Sometimes I have loads of energy and I will stay until the end. Other times I feel really drained halfway through and I kind of just say, you know, I've had a good time, but I'm going to leave. Or sometimes if it's like a thing and then everyone goes out to dinner after the thing, then I will go to the thing, but not to the dinner. And I think there's a balance here. Of course, we don't want to be inconsiderate of the host and like show up somewhere, eat all the food and then leave after 15 minutes. But I also don't think that we should feel guilty for recognizing our limits. Nowadays, I feel much more comfortable to just say like, I'm going to go home now, but thank you for inviting me. I've had a really nice time. And usually people are just happy that you came. And I think that should be normal. We don't have to feel like we need to stay until everyone else leaves or fake having a headache or something in order to be able to leave a little bit earlier. And speaking personally, as a highly sensitive person, I have learned how important it is to leave when I still have a little bit of energy in the tank, as opposed to leaving when I'm just completely exhausted. Because if I leave on time, then usually I will just have a good night's sleep and then wake up feeling well rested and recovered the next day. Number 8 is one that I really hope will be normalized, and that is asking for what you need at work to be happy and healthy and feel good at your job, whether that is a different desk or different break times or noise cancelling headphones or working from home one day a week, or just having a conversation about your workload in general. Unfortunately, this isn't always the case. Sometimes speaking up at work can affect your job security or career opportunities, and so I'm not saying like everyone should start making all kinds of demands all at once. I so wish that this was more normal, because it's in everyone's best interest if employees feel happy and supported and able to do their job. It's not just good for them, it's good for the company too. Healthier workplaces have better engagement, lower burnout, higher productivity, and even working from home has increased productivity in many ways, which we saw during the pandemic. So if your workplace isn't used to having these kinds of conversations yet, I would say start with something really small and specific. So don't say like, yeah, everything needs to change, but think of one very specific thing that could help you at your job. Like one example, maybe the radio is on all day and it really drains your batteries. So you could maybe talk about having it on only in the mornings. And try to frame it as something like, this would help me do my best work, so they know that it is in their best interest too. I definitely tried to do this at my jobs, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't, but it also kind of taught me to stand up for myself, advocate for myself more at work, which is a valuable skill in itself. The next self-care habit I think we should normalize is simply talking about burnout. This one is really personal to me, obviously, because I have been through burnout. It took me 2 years to recover and it completely changed my life in many ways. And I've made quite a few videos about it on the channel because I want to be part of having these conversations. One thing I always notice when I read the comments on those videos is so many people say that they feel like they cannot really talk about burnout either at home or at their job, and that people don't really understand it, or that people just think like it's just stress or you just need to try a little harder. But burnout is a real condition and it affects your mind and your body, and recovering from burnout is about a whole lot more than just like taking a few days or a few weeks off. I really believe that the more openly we talk about this, the more we can help each other out. Either someone can learn to spot the warning signs earlier before they reach that point, And if someone is experiencing burnout, then I hope that they will at least know that they are not the only one and that recovery is possible. So if you've been feeling really exhausted, overwhelmed, or like you're running on empty for a while, please don't ignore it. Please talk about it with someone you trust or maybe a doctor. The earlier you start doing something about this, the better. And if you're watching this and you're going through burnout right now, then please know that you are not the only one, and recovery can take time, but it definitely is possible, and I know that because I've been there too. And I'll leave some links to my other burnout videos in the description box below for anyone who's interested. Number 10 is having very clear boundaries with your phone, technology, and social media, or choosing not to be on social media at all. Because in many places in the world, it is now normal to spend 6 hours a day or more on your phone. And I know this one is difficult because we use our phone not just for entertainment, but also for communication, for work, for finding information. So I'm not saying get rid of your smartphone or anything like that. I just feel like we need much better boundaries and really take a good hard look at the amount of space that our phones are taking up in our lives. And I definitely noticed this myself too. Sometimes I grab my phone to check on an email, and then 20 minutes later, I've just been reading Reddit all the time, and I really don't feel better or like well rested or inspired afterwards. I just feel like I've lost those 20 minutes that I could have also spent doing something more meaningful or more fun. So what I feel like we need to normalize is boundaries. And the first thing that I would always recommend is not being on your phone the first 30 minutes and the last 30 minutes of your day. And having some phone-free zones in your home and in your life. Maybe the dinner table, the bedroom, not bringing your phone with you when you go to the bathroom, or not using your phone on your commute to work. And I also think we need to be more mindful of the information that we consume and how seriously we want to take that, because social media can convince us of many things that really are not true, and it makes us feel insecure about our looks or our lives. There's also a lot of misinformation on there. For example, about health. There is so much misinformation about health online. And I think many of us are just so used to immediately grabbing our phone as soon as we have some downtime. But this just does not lead to actual rest or downtime. We need to also sometimes stop feeding our brain more information and actually just give it a rest. Especially before you go to bed. Put the phone away, turn down the lights, have a relaxing, cozy herbal tea drink, or do some stretches or something. Kind of wind down, have a good night's sleep that you really need, because our phones are interrupting that too. All right, so I'm gonna step off my soapbox now. I would love to know from you, is there something like a self-care thing that you just really like to do, that you feel is really helping you, but either you feel like you can't really like talk about it openly, or maybe you've recently stopped hiding it, or you feel like it should be more normal? I would love to hear your examples in the comment section, so feel free to share. Also, a little special announcement for those of you who haven't seen it. I actually have started a second YouTube channel that is all about books. It is called Vera Reads Books, and there will be a link in the description box as well. I actually still need to add that link to my videos, but by the time this video goes up, there will be a link to Vera Reads Books. You can also just look for Vera Reads Books on YouTube and you will find it. So I would love it if you could hop on over there as well. If you are into books or if you would like to read more, then I would love to see you there too. Big thanks to Skillshare as well for supporting the channel and for sticking with the channel for so many years already as well. I really appreciate it. And if you want to check them out, you can click the link in the description box or scan the QR code right there for a 1-month free trial. If you support my sponsors, then you also support my channel. So that is a win-win. And as always, questions, comments, conversations down below. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you all again really soon. Bye-bye. So Vera Reads Books is up for 5 days at this point, and it has been a super fun 5 days. We're already at more than 1,600 subscribers, which blows my mind. Thank you so much for everyone who is on this journey with me. I'm having so much fun, and I hope you are too.